Cheyenne families have no homes or answers after a catastrophic water main break over the weekend. Wild Mustang advocates are crying foul after a popular mare dies in a BLM corral. And Wyoming's snowpack is way down with spring temperatures expected all this week. We'll take a look at these stories and more today from Wyoming's largest news organization. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily. Homeowners have been told their insurance won't cover damage from a catastrophic water main break that ruined several homes in Cheyenne last week because it's from a city water main. Quotes for the damage run between $30,000 and $50,000 per house, but Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that homeowners' policies are rejecting the claims.
Their policy isn't going to cover this flooding because the water came from the city's main and it's somebody else's responsibility, not theirs. So then they turn to the city to find out, what do they need to do? They'll have to file a claim through the Board of Public Utilities insurer. And unless that insurer finds fault with the city, they may declare it an act of God and not pay anything.
Well, as the Bureau of Land Management works to trim the McCullough Peaks Mustang herd near Cody by about 35 horses, wild horse advocates claim the agency's methods are cruel. Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines reports that a year-old mare named Cat Ballou died of head trauma during roundup efforts last week.
They've been conducting some horse captures, some bait and capture corrals they got set up. Unfortunately, a young mare, a year-old mare, as near as they can tell, panicked and might have smacked her head off of one of the metal poles, died as a result.
Sarah Beckwith, spokesperson for the BLM, said staff have strictly adhered to the comprehensive animal welfare program throughout the gather, but wild horse advocates question whether the BLM is following its own rules in managing the herd. Wyoming's two senators argued Friday to the U.S. Supreme Court that the ATF should not outlaw bump stocks and said the ATF has no authority to craft criminal laws in the first place. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that Senators John Barrasso and Cynthia Lummis are teaming up with a Laramie-based firearms law expert in arguing that the federal government can't tighten gun control laws without congressional action.
They're not just making a gun rights argument, they're taking on federal executive authority. And so recently there are other cases that are saying federal executive branch agencies like the ATF in this case should not be just making their own rules up as they go. Rather, when there's a dispute about what the law says, it should be up to the courts to interpret the law, not the agency.
The brief calls it tyranny to let agencies craft and interpret rules with criminal penalties attached because the rules can change every time there's a new president. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Do you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
The Wyoming Freedom Caucus last week accused Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis of voting to sanction a carbon tax and buying into the climate crisis. But Senator Lummis told Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson that she has not and will not ever support a carbon tax.
The Freedom Caucus accuses her support for the bill as paving the way as a gateway to a carbon tax at some point down the line in the future. Spoke to Senator Lummis and she said this just is not true. She looks at it as a way to actually protect Wyoming's industries from a potential carbon tax.
Lummis said the sole purpose of the bill is to prove that Wyoming and America's energy and manufacturing industries are the cleanest in the world. And as Wyomingites enjoy a spring spoiler of sunny 60-degree days this week, there's apprehension in high places. With snowpacks already struggling, how much is too much when it comes to warm temperatures in winter? Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi says not to worry, the cold, snowy weather will return.
Nearly every basin in the state is below average. But then historically, the driest months of the year are December, January, and February, and we've still got plenty of winter and then spring to go.
Yellowstone National Park and Jackson will start seeing an extended snowfall by late Thursday or Friday. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the subscribe button on CowboyStateDaily.com. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily.